Hello Georgetown, I'm Beverly Enos and this is Spotlight Georgetown. Thanks for joining us again. You can find us Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. If you would like to learn how to run the cameras, if you would like to learn how to do some editing, if you would like to be interviewed, please let me know and we'll make sure that that happens. Now today we're speaking with Susan Speak and with Marlene Schrader, and they're going to be talking about the Parker River Clean Water Association.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, I got that right. Welcome. Are either one of you from Georgetown?
No,
where
I am from Newbury.
And Susan?
And I live in Newburyport.
Okay, so you're still both local.
And both of these are communities that are part of the watershed.
So, and Georgetown is obviously part of the watershed,
Yes,
and
and
we wouldn't be talking about it.
That's true,
Yeah.
and we'll tell you in a little bit about the communities.
A little background on each of you. How did you get involved with this, or do you have education in the field, or is this just something that comes from the heart?
Well, maybe all of the above. I am a retired school teacher, so education is a big part of my background, and I've been involved with conservation issues for over 50 years. But I became interested in the Parker River Clean Water Association when they wanted to do a stream survey of the stream banks of the river, and they wanted to have this done by canoe, and so my husband and I volunteered since we paddle a lot, and that's how that part began. And then the founder of Parker River Clean Water, knowing that I was a teacher, asked me if I would like to teach a summer course for teachers in the watershed on ecology in the schoolyard, and that's where I met Susan.
And I too am an educator. I've been teaching in the primary grades for the last 17 years. And then about 10 years ago, I started volunteering with the Turtle Project. And then from there, things have grown to getting, I think, my education background. I saw grant opportunities and just that the communities in which we were doing the turtle research were just really perfect connections with that. So we went for grants, and the Massachusetts Environmental Trust has funded the projects here, and it's just continued to grow over the last decade.
I first met both of you at the Georgetown days because you had one of the booths there and you had a little kid swimming pool full of turtles. Big turtles. We're not talking little turtles here. We're talking good-sized turtles. So it was fun to watch all the kids come and play and learn about the turtles. Tell me something about the association.
Well, we are certainly a grassroots organization. We're community-based, all volunteer group, and we've been in business, so to speak, for about 17 years. We have a board of 9 members, and people are always welcome to, we're always looking for interested people.
How many communities are part of this Parker River watershed?
Well, there are actually 9 communities, but only a little teensy tip of North Andover is included. So we usually include these 8 communities. West Boxford, where the Parker River rises, Georgetown, Groveland, West Newbury, Newburyport, Raleigh, and Ipswich. And we try to have a presence in each of those 8 communities.
Where does the Parker River actually flow through Georgetown?
Right through Pentucket Pond and Rock Pond.
Okay.
And it goes almost all the land in Georgetown is in the Parker River watershed.
Having grown up on Rock Pond,
Yes.
there's a natural little river. We used to actually be able to canoe out quite a distance, but it's grown over through the years. And Rock Pond, the water circulates in a certain direction around this way, and then it goes under 97, it goes into Pentucket Pond.
Right.
So that's all part of the watershed.
If a drop of rain falls on a piece of land and eventually ends up in Parker River, that land is in the watershed. And as I said, most of Georgetown is.
When it leaves Pentucket, it goes through, it's a fish flume.
There are several fish ladders along the way, and you'll learn more about why those are important when we talk about our programs.
What is the nature of the river and the watershed?
Well, it's an interesting river. It's about 23 miles long, but part of it is fresh water, and then at the Central Street Dam in Newbury, it becomes tidewater. So we have habitat that's both freshwater and tidewater, which creates quite a variety of habitat, and this means a great more diversity in wildlife.
So the species would be totally different, the ones that are going to be the tidal, as
Right.
opposed to the ones that are in the
Right.
the freshwater. What are some of the programs that are offered?
Well, we have a number of programs. You've mentioned those fish ladders. One of our programs is our river herring fish count. In the springtime, the river herring who've been out in the ocean migrate up the freshwater streams to spawn. And of course, many years ago, beginning when the area was first settled, they put dams in. And the way the fish get around those is the fish ladders. It's just one of the many obstacles they have to encounter as they make their way up to hopefully lay eggs. And
that's a fight.
It's very much so.
I've watched a couple of them
Yes.
go through this.
And we're particularly interested in this. We do this fish count every year, literally counting the fish that return. At one time, we would be able to count 40, 50, 60,000 fish, and this has dropped just precipitously to sometimes less than 1,000. And river herring are important because in the ocean, they are the food for the fish that we want to put on our table. And one of the ways that we're using our data is to try and influence the New England Fishery Management Council. And they determine the regulations for the big commercial trawlers who may scoop up 100,000 river herring in one scoop, but they don't want them. They're discarded as what's called bycatch. So in one scoop, they may discard dead 100,000 of the fish we're counting just 1,000 of. But we're literally talking about the hand that puts food on the table, so to speak, because they are one of the main food fish for those
so they're lower on the food chain.
They're lower on the food chain, but very important to our food chain. And so that's one of the ways in which our volunteers work to one of the programs. Another very important program that you find here in Georgetown is the Water Quality Monitoring Program. We have 14 sites strategically located through the watershed, and every month we measure water samples from these, looking for a number of different characteristics: pH, how acid the river is, turbidity, how much sediment you might find, dissolved oxygen, because fish need oxygen, and nitrates and phosphates. Phosphates are what you find in laundry detergent. So we have a lot of parameters we measure, and we have 3 sites in Georgetown that we do. Another one of ours that is very important in Georgetown is a low flow study. We're concerned because the Parker River is drying up in the summertime in Georgetown. We were working with the Riverways program to do a study of flow in Georgetown and how the water department pumping stations might be affecting this. And we've been having wonderful cooperation with the Georgetown Water Department now in a conservation program called Drop 10, and it's an effort to drop 10%. So that's one of the programs, and I'm happy to say that that water conservation program is producing results, and we've had programs with the school children on that. We've also been doing a roadkill survey. Now that sounds rather grisly to go out and count dead animals, but we've been very concerned. The Massachusetts Department of Transportation, in cooperation with Mass Fish and Wildlife, would like to decrease roadkill, first for driver safety, and then also for the protection of the animals. And particularly turtles who migrate to lay their eggs and they cross the road and get squashed, which is a pretty sad thing. But we had volunteers here in Georgetown at the hot spots counting, sadly, or in some cases, if they found a live turtle, crossing it in the direction in which it was going.
I do that often.
Yes.
Probably 4 or 5 times this summer.
Well, give
Turtles are
yourself.
going across. And
You may
stop the traffic. Put my life in jeopardy sometimes.
You may be adding 30 years to the life of that turtle.
But they're nice little turtles. You can't let them get squished in the road.
And speaking of turtles, one of our biggest programs is our turtle research program, and Susan can tell you a lot about that.
Okay.
Well, the Turtle Research Program grew out of Mark Gregorowicz's master program when he was a graduate student at UMass Amherst, and he started to first survey some of the wetlands in this area and found a very healthy population of Blanding's turtles. And Blandings are a threatened species here in the state of Massachusetts. The population that we deal with in this area is one of the second largest in all of New England, and our numbers are less than 100. So the population, even though it sounds really large, is really a population that's in trouble. And so about 10 years ago, we started a nest protection project. So when the turtles leave the wetland areas in May and June is when they nest. They come up onto grassy areas and fields and gravelly areas to lay their eggs. And after they deposit their eggs, and they return back to the wetlands, and their clutch of eggs remains under the soil until, depending upon the species of turtles, anywhere from about 75 to 100 days. And then the hatchlings emerge. And the turtles, you know, if there is no, they have, as we already talked about, roadkill is when they often roads intersect the uplands from the wetlands. There's also predation, which is natural predation from foxes and skunks and raccoons. So they're out there hungry looking for a meal as well, and just as quickly as the turtles are laying the eggs, they're often being dug up by natural predators. Habitat loss and habitat fragmentation are also challenges that these turtles face. So by protecting the nest, and particularly with endangered species of turtles, we're really helping the predation. We're really helping when the Blandings are out on the fields nesting. We're monitoring them from ATVs, from squishing them, or other, human traffic, if you will, so that they can lay their eggs. The nests that we protect have a raised cage over them, so when the hatchlings emerge, we're able to weigh and measure and mark the individuals and then release them back into the wetlands. And one of the wonderful things, we've had many families in the Georgetown community who've participated with the turtle research that we've done, and we've welcomed, particularly when it's hatchling season, children of all ages. And I think our youngest was 2 or 3 years when she first started, and she is now a young lady who's just come back year after year to help with the turtles with that. So we've had folks locally have been just very supportive and helpful for our turtle, for the turtle research.
Don't you think, Susan, that the people in Georgetown have recognized that this is an unusual natural resource, and how fortunate the community is to have this? I think that that's been one of the biggest factors that's made this so successful. And you might speak, Susan, about the role that the Natural Heritage has played, because they recognize some of these things.
Our funding currently is through the Massachusetts Environmental Trust. The license plate helps to support the projects like these. But in addition, we've had funding through the Natural Heritage Endangered Species Program here in Massachusetts, and as well as the local conservation commissions, both in Boxford and Georgetown and Groveland, have all helped to support our work. And the Natural Heritage Endangered Species Program is the governing body that oversees the endangered species of Massachusetts. So not only turtles, but also amphibians and birds, and all of our different organisms that may be in peril here in Massachusetts.
And I think the fact that we've had such successful involvement from the citizens in this community, Natural Heritage recognizes that, and they're going to put their dollars where you find this kind of community support, and that's been a very important part.
The dollar will go further when they have a lot of volunteers.
That's right, and they say, we see the community is supporting this, it's important to them, and so that definitely increases the opportunities. And there's a lot of gratitude that we have to the Georgetown Conservation Commission. They do a wonderful job of getting behind this.
Now, are there any other financial supporters that you have? Where does the rest of them, it can't just come from one, usually it's many different types of...
For each of our different programs, we seek funding, we try to seek grants for our specific programs. We have our membership, which is not, we are not a big organization. I sometimes say we're small but mighty. We have the support of our members, and many of them give above and beyond what the basic membership is. And we have sometimes funds from different corporate sponsors. Many businesses will have a certain amount of money that they can contribute in various ways to community programs, and that's one of the others that we have.
Question for you, and this has come up numerous times at town meetings, and everybody's always asking, what is a vernal pool? We're always talking, you have to protect the vernal pool. What is it?
Well, Susan and I both have a strong interest in vernal pools, and Georgetown has a lot of them. They're mapped, both those that are potential vernal pools and those that are certified. Susan, why don't you tell them a little bit about a vernal pool and what it is and why it's so important?
Well, a vernal pool in the truest sense of the word is a spring filling pool that doesn't have an inlet and an outlet. So it is filled by rainwater, by snowmelt, are the two, and some of them have underground springs that might help to feed them as well. Because there's no inlets and outlets, there's the perennial streams or other wetlands that would connect. The fish are not able to get into a vernal pool. Therefore, there are 3 obligate species, so species that depend completely upon a vernal pool habitat. They lay their eggs there. So our wood frogs, and then one type of mole salamander, or several mole salamanders lay their eggs there, and then fairy shrimp. So they come and they will, in the springtime, when the water level is usually at its greatest height, lay lots and lots of eggs. And because the fish are not there, their predation that's one predator that isn't there. However, the Blanding's turtle migrates quite a bit, and one of the places that we will often find not only Blandings but many other species of turtles are in the vernal pools in the springtime, because
Feeding
they
grounds.
come and feed upon those amphibian eggs. So they're an important and vital resource just for the obligate species in and of themselves, but also for some of our rare species. They're some of the first food that these organisms are having emerging from the damp darkness of of winter.
Is there a size issue? Does it have to be a certain size to be a vernal pool, or just
Some are quite small, and some are quite large. They do need to, or hopefully, have enough water to last through the time when the eggs will mature, hatch, and the little tadpoles will hop away. But one of the things that makes vernal pools very interesting is they are one of the first and most sensitive to changes in the environment. They're kind of a bellwether, and the health of a vernal pool can be an indicator of the health of the surrounding environment. And that's the same environment that we're living in too. The water quality, for example, is one of the things. Susan, why don't you mention the importance of the Big Night and how people can help? Big
Night is in the spring one of the first warm nights, and warm is about 40 degrees Fahrenheit, and it is pouring, torrential pouring, the nights that you just want to be at home. And on those evenings, amphibians, the wood frogs and different mole salamanders who have been hibernating and spending the winter in the uplands and about 500 to 1,000 feet away from the vernal pools start, the rain trickles down and starts to warm the soil, and that's their kind of, awakening to coming down into the vernal pools. So on those really, really rainy nights, it's the migration, and sometimes we think of migrations as really large scale, like from here to South America, but migrations can also be on a very small scale, and this is, in this case, a very small scale migration. So you can be seeing lots and lots of frogs. I mean, I'm sure many of the residents here in Georgetown have been driving around and just feel on these rainy nights, and you just see like frogs hopping everywhere, and it very well could be what's classified as the big night, because there's this huge migration going down into the vernal pools. In reality, often big nights are little smaller nights because it might rain for 3 or 4 nights, and they kind of move over that period of time. But because roads often intersect uplands, again, from the lowlands where the wetlands are, helping to cross amphibians on those nights. So in some of the hot spots, we have had volunteers out helping to cross.
Stopping the traffic?
Well, safety is always, human safety always comes first, but there are some places where you can put signs up where it says amphibian crossing, and you just can, and often on nights like that, people aren't out, but you have to be careful.
Well, we've had some pretty funny experiences. It's pouring rain out. Here we are with our flashlights, driving slowly with the headlights on the car, helping to guide us as we're out there like this in this pouring rain. And people will stop and say, are you all right? Do you need some help? And we have to tell them, we're helping salamanders and frogs cross the road, and if they've never seen it before, they kind of look. But you know what? Pretty soon, many of them will be out there joining us.
They get hooked.
Yes. Well, these animals are very hardwired. They've been going this way for millennia, and so they didn't know that the road was going to be there, and this is one way that we can help them along.
One of the pieces with vernal pools that's also really important, I mentioned that they get filled by the rainfall and the snow melt. It's a race against dryness. So these organisms are on a very fast metamorphosis to be an adult before the vernal pool dries up. So if we have a particularly dry spring, often they're not able to complete their metamorphosis until, at that point, and don't make it that year. So it is, if you do go to visit a vernal pool, often in August, you see a shallow depression kind of in the forest, and kind of like, but it's just one of the real challenges that the organisms have, in addition to kind of the human piece with that there.
And we had a very dry summer this year, but we had a very wet spring.
It was a good season for the vernal pools that I monitored. And last year we had workshops for people who are interested in vernal pools and how you would certify them. When you certify a vernal pool, you have to document the presence of these obligate species and some other things. You send the documentation to the state. They read it through and declare, yes, this is truly a vernal pool. And the reasons for doing that is it can provide additional protection for the vernal pool. Now, Susan and I would probably say not enough, because we'd like to see more. It isn't just the edges of the pool. The animals that use the vernal pool may be 500 to 1,000 feet or so away, and that's a critical area. But there are a lot of ways that we can help to protect vernal pools. The Conservation Commission will always take into account any certified vernal pool.
Question for you, with one very obvious answer. The question is, why do we have to save these rare species? Obvious answer being, if we don't, they will go away forever. We will never see them again. But there has to be more to it than just that.
Well, from my point of view, we're all there somewhere in the spectrum of life on Earth. And as you protect the biodiversity of life on Earth, you need to remember that we're part of that too. And he still is living, Dr. Edward O. Wilson, who is known as the father of biodiversity, who made a quotation that I use all the time, that we are a part of nature, we, the people, not apart from nature. And that helps you to see that you're right there along those salamanders and so forth, somewhere in that same mix. I don't know, Susan, if you have some thoughts. Both of us feel passionately about protecting biodiversity.
I think I would echo what Marlene has said, but it's a very interconnected chain. And if you break one part of that chain, there is a ripple effect, yeah. Absolutely. And as Marlene said, we're part of that chain. And so not only is it, helping, kind of everybody, every living organism, but just in addition, these organisms are amazing. Often we think we have to go to, the forest of, like the Amazon to see really cool creatures, and they're just amazing organisms here in Georgetown to see and to learn about, and they've been here, many of them, long before.
Before we are.
Turtles and amphibian species are some of the earliest, certainly the amphibians that kind of emerged from the primordial soup of our oceans to now. And turtles, 200 million years?
Since before the dinosaurs.
Wow.
So they have been here for a long time.
For people that would like to get involved or donate, how would they go about that? If they would like to come in as a volunteer, or if they'd like to make donations, how can they contact you or the agency or the association?
Well, we have a wonderful website with just lots and lots of information. You would find a lot about the community of Georgetown there, as well as our other programs at parker-river.org. And also on that website is a copy of our membership brochure, and you can fill it out. You can email us. The email address is there, and let us know you're interested. And you can phone 978-462-2551 and leave a message on the machine, and we welcome support in any fashion. Whether you want to come and help us with our programs, or you care about our mission and would just like to donate, that's fine too. Also, you can join us on maybe our spring canoe trip and get a real feel for what the Parker River is and just how lovely and diverse it is.
Well, I'd like to thank you very much. You have all those numbers and everything right at the tip of your tongue. It's wonderful. But thank you very much. I think you've really made people aware. Well, and hopefully that's what we were here to do today. And we especially enjoyed that job of outreach to the community at Georgetown Days, and I know you were one of the people that made that happen. Thank you. Thank you. But it has been great, and I have received so much information, and I know the website will get lots of hits. Thank you so much, Beverly. Thank you very much, Marlene. Thank you. Thank you. I'm Beverly Enos. This is Spotlight Georgetown, Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Bye for now.